Hey guys, welcome back to the part 2 of my tutorial. I know it's been a while, but yeah, well, I guess I'm back for a while. This time I'll be talking about the robot mode, some of the processes I went through when I was modeling it, rigging it, and animating it. And yeah, I hope this is useful to you guys in some way. Let's get right into it. For the robot mode, well, there isn't much to say. I guess I just had to have a bunch of reference images here that I just put together so I can just look them, see if my robot looks about right. And I also went into the game myself and recorded a bunch of things. Go in, I just take a good look around, so I have all these different angles, so I can go back into the recording and then I can look at it frame by frame, get a good angle on him, and then just, yeah, look at the details I want, just messing around. Now I'm gonna go into the robot, see what I did for the rigging, and then how I sort of combined everything together. So this here is a very basic rig that I put together for his robot mode. As you can see, I again got impatient and started getting ahead of myself because I started working on the rig before I had even finished the model yet. You can see the forearm itself is pretty incomplete. There's no details on any of the shoulder pieces. The torso does have some details, but yeah, there's no Autobot logo either. Nothing on the ab area. But yeah, I did put together this fairly basic rig. It has an IK handle here. And I did not use Rigify for making this rig here. It would have been much better if I had used Rigify, to be honest, but it is also more complicated to work with because I'm working with a transformer here, and once I have to combine the rig with the vehicle mode, then things may get more complicated. So what I just did was I made a very basic rig. I looked at a few YouTube tutorials on how to make IKs for the hands and the legs so I could set them up. Problem is I can't really animate properly with them, because I have no way of properly switching the IK on and off, and the transformation is better done without the IK. So yeah, after I made this basic armature for my robot so I could essentially control everything, more or less, then I kind of joined these two armatures together. It's more to make sure that they are the same scale. It was a problem that I ran into, because if you try and combine them while they are different scale, then, well, yeah, it's gonna mess up one of the rigs. And yeah, as you can see, everything kind of got scaled down, and yeah, you do not want this happening. Just make sure that they are the same scale. You can see here I've got scale 3 here, 2.5 here. So yeah, I did end up fixing this eventually. And then you would just, what I did was I just joined them together, and then kind of just went to edit mode, just shifted everything over to where the robot generally would be, like if we were to transform. And yeah, now this is the tricky part. You kind of just have to figure out which parts would you want to end up getting rid of, like say the duplicates, right? And for the most part, I mean, since this is more or less color-coded, I could just figure most of this out. So I would delete parts like the torso bits, for example, and then what I would do is I would go into pose mode, and I would try and squeeze this robot mode into the vehicle mode of this thing. So at this point, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make the vehicle form that has both the robot and the vehicle mode. So this will be the first step of starting to transform, right? I would try and find some way to make this robot fit here using pose mode, a rotate thing, and then I would have the torso piece lined, and then I would probably adjust the torso piece first, but yeah, I just generally try and have it to what it was like before I deleted the old torso piece. But yeah, for sure, this would be a lot easier if your rig was a bit better organized, unlike mine. But yeah, I'm just trying to have this robot kind of in a place where it would make sense to me. Say, if you imagine Optimus Prime as his robot form in his vehicle mode, then how would you imagine his limbs, his body to be, what position his body would be holding? Then yeah, then I can just, since with all these bones, I can just kind of adjust I can fine tune to the point where I like it. I've got my reference images here. So that helps as well. You just kind of shift it to where I like it. But yeah, so at this point, what you're just trying to do is you're trying to like hide the robot mode into the vehicle mode by any means you can. It would just mean positioning everything to where you think it should be positioned. In this case, I guess, I just had a fairly basic robot rig, right? So as you can see, I haven't got any bones or connections for any of the shoulder pieces. So what I would end up doing is I would just end up deleting these pieces, and then I would parent this shoulder pad here and the piece that it's connected to the bone of this shoulder here. It's not by any means simple nor fun, I can tell you that much. But yeah, you kind of just have to like know what you're doing. If your rig is a lot more organized, this would be a lot easier. Yeah, so you can actually see. Yeah, so say for example, your rig could have different like objects that are set to it, or it could have different colors. Just anything to help you make you understand your rig a little bit better, so you can more easily make all the necessary connections without giving a huge headache. In the end, what you want to do is make sure you parent everything to the relevant things. So in this case, I would have to parent these pieces here to the shoulder bone of the robot mode, because these pieces will be following the shoulder of the robot no matter what. Say I would have this piece here parented to this. And yeah, the problem with this is that you would have to, after you go into edit mode and you parent them, the offset of this large gap between them would still be maintained even after you go into post mode. So we can see here, after I parented it, the shoulder actually moved all the way down here. So I'm gonna have to manually readjust that. Turn off x-axis here. I have to manually readjust that again, make sure everything is as close to what I want it to be. And yeah, obviously this is a very rough version, right? I'm just kind of trying to demonstrate how I was able to do what I did. So I would just essentially do something like this. And yeah, I would just have it scaled down to whatever I had the shoulder pad set to, the smaller one. And then I would just position everything correctly and parent everything correctly. That's the important part. Basically what you want to do is you would just want to finish folding your robot into your rig. In this case, I still have my eye case activated, so let me just turn that off. Cool. So yeah, you just essentially what you want to do is you just want to finish folding up your robot so everything kind of fits nicely into your rig. If there are parts that are kind of like sticking out, right? So you've got this leg piece here that's kind of sticking out. Then yeah, I would just scale it down till it becomes minimal. You can shift things around as well. It's for the rig of the robot, it's best to not have things connected together, so you can kind of move things around. You can have a lot more flexibility during transformation phases. So right now, I can't really move it along the x-axis. You can see me I'm trying to move along the x-axis, but it's not really budging. It helps to, say I have this hip bone here that I just shift off to the side, and then that way the legs would be in a more normal position, as you would expect it to be in. And the legs would be closer to the position where you expect it to be in. In this case, I would have the legs folding in to the rear of the sides. So I would have the legs around here, the shin around here, the knee around here, as you can see. And then I would just keep folding things away until everything kind of just disappeared. When you first move the pose back into the original pose, then you'll have all these car parts lying around here. So you're gonna have to like put them onto the robot where it would make sense. If you parented everything properly, some of these parts might come along onto the robot as well. But for the most part, you will have to tuck away a lot of these pieces. So for example, I would just shove this little piece into there, have this little piece shoved into here. I kind of just put away most of the parts that I wouldn't need, right? I just kind of shoved it into the torso area. And then since a lot of these parts won't appear in any like size, what's going to happen is you're going to end up scaling it to 0. So a lot of these robot pieces are going to end up being scaled to 0. as I'll show you right now. Let's say we grab this little piece here. If we turn into the robot rig, then you're gonna see it's pretty small. Not quite zero, but very small. Yeah, essentially, the trick is just to make it smaller until it essentially disappears, or it does actually disappear. And now for the transformation part, you want to have you want to figure out how long you want your animation to be. In this case, let's say I want mine to be 40 frames, starting from 40 to 520. So first off, I would have the vehicle mode here, set a keyframe. For location, rotation, and scale, it's more that you add scale as well, since we'll be scaling things up and down during the transformation. And then at the end of the transformation phase, then we'll have the robot mode. Hit I and apply all three. So you can see it kind of morphs into the robot mode. At this point, you kind of want to visualize how you want your robot to transform. As you can see for mine, for the legs, right? The legs are the tricky part because they kind of just unnaturally fold out like this. What you want to do is you want the legs to fold out from this way, since that's how the legs normally bend. So you can achieve that by sort of what I did. As you can see, I made him flip up into the air and then have the legs fold out, which is sort of what happened in the games as well. Give it a more natural feeling look instead of just having it fold out from below and having the knees bend unnaturally. During this, you would have to animate the transformation, figure out how you would want things to move. You go into the graph editor here. Then again, I will want to change everything to linear interpolation, and then I would just move different things around, just move it in the order. So say, for example, I want the head to move first, or I want a few parts up here to shift a little bit, and then before he goes into the main part of the transformation. So I would say for these two pieces, I would move the end frames a little bit closer here. And that may be too fast, so I'm gonna try. It looks a bit better. So you kind of just have to sort of decide how you want your transformation to look. It's entirely up to you. For me, I have, as you can see, I had these little pieces and some like this little side wheel guards here shift in during the initial phase of the transformation. So that's what I'll be doing. So I want this to start moving in from frame 482, and then kind of just slowly moving like this. Now for the entire body shifting up, rotating up like this, I don't want it to start moving up immediately. Maybe I could just have it start turning up just a little bit later. Something like that. And then we can just kind of focus on the initial parts first, and then we can worry about the entire movement of the entire body later. And for this as well, as you can see, what I did was I for 480, this would be the initial starting position. Then say a couple frames in, I would just duplicate this so that it stays put, and then I would just have it rotate back a little bit, and then rotation. Yep. And then say I would have it, now I wanted to raise upwards, shift upwards like this. So now you have the head rotating back, and then you have it moving forward, upwards. Maybe say I want a bit of a gap, a bit of a pause before it starts shifting upwards. So if you just focus on the torso piece, it would rotate backwards, go up, and so on. So the point is so that to make everything transform, to have everything shift into place within a relatively short time frame. And you can have it take multiple paths. So say you see this little piece here, it would go all the way into the back and disappear. Instead of that, then we can just, for the first couple of frames, we can have it shift into the torso, for example. So we duplicate this, and then we have it move inwards and apply location. So what we have now is we have initially this little piece here moving inwards first, and then we can pause for a little bit, and then it would begin to disappear. So this would end up making it look a bit more natural, like it actually transforms instead of just disappearing into nothing. So yeah, you can decide at what point certain pieces would come out. It's best to leave the scaling of the objects until much later, until they're out of view. So because usually the scaling is pretty visible. So you can isolate the scaling, just lock everything except the scales. The same goes for the other side. And then you select these two, and then you would move everything to the side. So now the scaling doesn't happen until much later, and it also happens much faster. By which point it wouldn't matter anymore because it's not visible. So for now we can unlock everything else, and then say, let's just say 46 frame. We wanted them to shift it downwards, so I would move them down here, apply location, and then now we just have this shifting downwards. And then say for 490, then we'd have them move into the body, sort of like this. Apply location again. Might be a bit too fast. I'll move that back a little bit. So yeah, now we just have this kind of just almost disappearing into the body, but it looks much better than have it just quite literally disappear. Yeah, everything kind of just tries to move into place. So like I said again, you're just trying to make these happen over a short period of time. Just give everything their own time frame for things to happen. Have it slowly happen. The parts slowly shift into place over time, and make sure the scaling of different pieces is not visible. Because here it's pretty visible. So what I did was I had all of these pieces here. I had them shift towards the front, and then I would have them disappear either when they're inside a different object, so it's not visible, or I would have it shift when I'm looking from the front view, where this is not visible either. That depends on your camera work, right? So you would have to like know where your camera's going to be pointing, what's going to be visible, what's not, as well. But that could potentially save a bunch of work. But this will take a bit of time, but in the end, you're going to end up with something that looks like this. So I can show you here. This is what my final animation graph looks like. Every single frame has something going on because I kind of just distributed everything. So say we have this little piece here, this little spinny thing, and then we can just see it's doing multiple things throughout this. So first it would go down, then it would shift to the back, and then it would start disappearing. Let's grab a different piece. Say, what about this little thing here? Yeah, you can see on the graph editor. So first it would move towards the back of the torso, and then it would begin, and then it would pause for a bit, and then it would rotate upwards to kind of fit the angle that it's at, and then just follow along with the torso a little bit, and that's how everything here works, as you can see. Again, the little bit of having pieces kind of overshoot and then snap into place is pretty powerful for larger pieces here. Let's say, for example, here, while at like normal speed, this may just look like it's just kind of shifting to place like it would normally. What you can see here actually on the graph editor, and you can see visually in slow-mo, is for one frame it would overshoot and then it would shift back into place. And then if you carefully focus on the animation on the 3D viewport as well, you would see kind of just almost like snaps into place. So yeah, this technique's pretty powerful for making things feel more satisfying and realistic. For the legs here, this was quite tricky. So when I had them unfold, right, I would have to have them unfold through the rotation of its joints. But then, after the legs hit the ground, I wouldn't want them moving around. And then because the torso and the spine was still adjusting itself. If I had the IKs off, right, they would also be moving around every time I moved the torso around, and I had to manually adjust them. And then if I tried to do that, I wouldn't be that precise, so I would have the feet shifting all over the place, which would look very bad. So as the transformation was occurring, I actually had to turn the IKs on as soon as the feet hit the ground. So up until this point, I had been manually animating everything, and then this next frame, I believe, I had the IKs turned on. Yeah, I had to make sure everything it looked as seamless as possible, and while obviously I couldn't get it perfect, we were working a transformation that's going relatively fast. Also hoping on the chance that it wouldn't be as visible. But yeah, when you're working at IKs, it's a bit tricky sometimes if you don't have a proper rig or a control setup that allows you to switch between the IKs and the FKs. So yeah, this rig is just one that I made by myself. Right? It's very basic. It's only got one bone. It doesn't have a proper IK FK snapping mechanism. What I would recommend is you either use Rigify for your rigs, or you try and figure out some way to have this snap properly if you want to have proper clean animations. So yeah, for my next project, actually, I will be planning to have. Hopefully, I'll be trying to use Rigify to rig the actual robot mode, so I can actually make cleaner animations and also have it look a lot cleaner and have it much more workable. As you can see already, this is a huge mess. You got spikes pointing everywhere. It's less than ideal to work with. But yeah, once that's done, that's basically it. Hey there guys, this is me from the future. I just want to say that I did in fact develop a more advanced rig. I didn't quite move to Rigify, but I just updated this rig to make it more advanced, to have to allow to use both IK and FK for both the arms and the legs, which allowed for more flexibility during animation. And I also have this little add-on which allows me to easily swap between the FKs and IKs, which made life a lot easier for me. So yeah, I will be talking about this if I do end up making a tutorial for my latest animation that I made. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for checking it out. And next up, I'll be talking about his weapon, the Pass Blaster. Hope you enjoy. See you.